All right, guys. Stephen A. Smith apologizes to Kwame Brown finally, or did he? Welcome back, y'all, to the Best of Seven Sports Talk. Y'all know who I be. I'm in the building. Seven Mitchell, man. Salute to you guys, man. Happy Sunday. This video right here, this live stream is about to be classic. So if you guys want to make sure that y'all are part of today's video, make sure y'all smash that like button. Get into the comments so the whole world know that you were here. And let's get into today's story, man. It's a good one. So this morning, right, I woke up and I was on YouTube and I came across a channel, Jim's Eye View. Salute to Jim's Eye View. She had a video about Stephen A. Smith apologizing to Kwame Brown and Kwame Brown pretty much responding to this apology. Now, for most of those know, Kwame Brown was on the Pivot podcast not too long ago, had a real good interview. Y'all got to check that out. Shout out to the Pivot podcast. And, Kwame Brown was actually speaking on Stephen A. Smith and some things that evolved around their type of history was brought up. And pretty much Stephen A. Smith just went on an interview just recently and he was asked about, Kwame Brown, and he responded and reacted to the Pivot interview. We're about to check out just a little bit of what Stephen A. had to say about Kwame Brown's interview on the Pivot. And I want you guys to let me know if y'all felt like Stephen A. issued a genuine apology. And do you guys think that Kwame Brown was wrong for his reaction? Now, let me say this before we even get into the clip this morning. Two things can definitely be true. We're going to tap into that after we get the footage. Two things can actually be true. And also, when someone violates you, you definitely do not have a right to tell them or try to gauge what the get back is. Like, you can't tell somebody how to feel when they feel like they were violated. So I want you guys to keep that in mind. We about to lock in real quick, man. This is the Best of Seven Sports Talk. Seven Mitchell in the building. Let's talk. Let's get into this topic and let's see if we can get some of this footage from Jim's IV. Make sure y'all subscribe to her channel on YouTube. But let's see what Stephen A. Smith had to say. If I got my times right.
It's guys, hilarious, man. But you know it.
But guys, but wait a minute. Fellas, that was 14, 15 years ago. I'm saying I didn't know that this society was going to evolve to a point where 14, 15 years later, you got guys throwing it in his face and he doing interviews talking about how scarred he is and blaming me for labeling him. I didn't do that.
No, you actually are right.
He was on the Pivot with my boys Ryan Clark and Crowder.
So Stephen A. basically now he kind of moonwalking, saying that he didn't realize or anticipate that it was going to blow up, that social media would have, those moments be extended for so long, causing so much friction and issues to Kwame Brown. He's acknowledging that. If it's cap, I mean, that's up for you and I to kind of debate and talk about, but that was his angle for the start.
And he's like, you talk about endorsement deals and I cost him out. I'm like, what? Like, nah, I didn't do that.
Now, that's not true, Stephen A. Smith. You don't know how much money or what opportunities this guy had and had not been able to capitalize off of based off of the perception, based off of storylines and narratives. So when Kwame Brown brought that up, that's big and important because that's how this guy's feeding his family. So Stephen A. is trying to kill that narrative automatically, but he really have nothing to go off of to dispute it. He's just saying that. It might not have been his intention, but again, intent and results are two totally different things. So regardless of what Stephen A. intended to do when he was making these little jokes or whatever vibe he had with Kwame, it definitely snowballed over to a whole nother thing. Whether Stephen A. Smith had knowledge of it was going to happen like that doesn't matter. That's just how I feel about that part.
They were saying this about you years before I ever opened my mouth. Yeah. But when you at the top of the heap, which I am at this particular moment in time doing what I do for First Take, people are going to label it like that.
Now, that's true, but the only thing about it is, well, personally, I'm not going to say that's true because I personally didn't hear anybody talking bad or talking down on Kwame Brown about his skill set, stuff like that, until Stephen A. kind of started this. So Stephen A. is saying that these types of comments and statements about Kwame's play was being done and said before him, which I feel like is cap. And even if it was, more than likely it was by a white man. So I guess what really happens is, I mean, you can toot your own horn. You can see he's talking about him being number one, so you can see how he's getting, the darts and all that. But you are also a black man, so it's going to look different. The optics of it is wild because you seem to be going over the limit, being so extra. You know what I'm saying? To down this guy, whether it's his play or what have you. I don't know too many white people before Stephen A. Smith, even if they was talking about Kwame Brown. I never heard those convos, and I don't know too many white people to be as animated as Stephen A. Smith is when it comes to the takes and the delivery. Stuart Scott was one of the trendsetters when we talk about bringing that animation to sports commentary, and he did it on a positive note. Stephen A., I feel like, kind of took that vibe and energy from him, and mixed it into how he wanted to actually deliver. But let's keep it going with what Stephen A. Smith had to say, and if y'all feel like this is a legit apology.
Because First Take's been number one for 11 years.
Yeah, why is that beef? I mean, you can't squash that beef.
No, I mean, I'm not trying to squash. I'm not trying to start nor squash anything.
Mhm.
I got a job to do.
Mhm.
If I knew it was going to be like that, I wouldn't have done it like that. But I did say what I meant at the time.
Scrub Zero on the building. Scrub Zero says Stephen A. Smith trying to moonwalk, but he ain't giving no apology to Kwame Brown, and he know he ain't going to now. But why is he talking about Kwame now? Sounds like he's trying to be relevant to me. Now, he was actually asked a question by the podcast that he was on about Kwame Brown because Kwame just was on the pivot. So he was basically responding to that. So I'm not mad for Stephen A. for replying or answering the question of the interview. But here is the part that we wanted to get into as far as the quote unquote apology from Stephen A. Smith. Then we'll hear from Kwame Brown, and then I'll come back with my reactions on the whole thing.
I meant the shit. Okay.
Yeah, you explained it. Yeah.
And so it's like I'm not trying to hurt him. I mean, listen, man. Look, here's how I view it all. I wish him nothing but the best. I hope he, his family, everybody good, and he lives his life. And I knew it was gonna be like this. I'd have never done it. Fair enough. Correction.
So, what do y'all think about that statement right there? I mean, he kind of moonwalking because just a couple seconds ago he said he meant the shit. But now he's saying that in hindsight, if he knew that it was going to have this type of effect, if it had this type of impact, he would not have delivered it the way that he delivered it. And, he brought up Kwame's family. He brought up Kwame. I've never heard Stephen A. do this to our black athletes. He's always had a history of going at guys, but I've never really seen him go this route. So I don't know if y'all feel like this is good enough for an apology or not, but it was a different type of vibe. Now, Kwame Brown hears this, and Kwame feels like this is all cap. Let me hear if Stephen A. got anything else to say before we get to Kwame's part.
But I will tell you this. My job is to call the game of basketball how I see it. Call sports how I see it. Okay?
Yeah.
He is not the first person that I've criticized. He won't be the last. I've been criticized. You got a whole bunch of people out here doing debate shows.
Okay, so let's get into what Kwame had to say about the situation because Kwame heard this and he responded. So let me see if I can get where Kwame had actually replied because Kwame has some interesting
takes. I'm going to do this without cursing you out. I'm going to do this without any of that because I'm going to have Eton Thomas come back on my show. And we're going to have the GMs that come on that listen to the garbage that you spill. And we're going to have them really break down the effects of the media and how they sway public opinion. And public opinion plays a large part in athlete signing.
So I'm going to go back a little bit more because I missed the key part, but Kwame Brown is basically, saying that Stephen A. is cap, and Kwame Brown is planning on bringing some GMs and some other special guests onto his platform to kind of speak on some things and kind of elaborate, what it's really like behind the scenes. I don't really know, bro, how much of an impact or that's really just a waste of time, though. Like, I can't tell Kwame Brown what to do on his platform, but, bringing these guys on, like, how much weight do these guys carry? Not so much as far as the knowledge of the game and the knowledge of what the hell is happening, but as far as changing things. Because at the end of the day, we need change because we don't want another player to have to go through the same experiences that Kwame Brown had to go through. So it's all about adjustments. What can these guys do or bring to the table that Kwame Brown is going to have on his show other than, just talk? So I guess that's one thing. when we talk about Kwame Brown still, having guests on and speaking on this. And even in the pivot, people was like, yo, why is he still talking about Stephen A. Smith? Why is he bringing up the whole Stephen A. going to schools and all that? And like I said before, when somebody violates you or when you feel disrespected or anything of that nature, yo, you can't tell them how to feel. You can't tell them how to gauge their level of emotion or pain or get back or revenge. It is what it is. So, that's why you always got to be mindful of how you treat people from the jump, because what you get back in return does not necessarily have to be the same way. That's just not how it's actually played. But I do want to get to this part with Kwame Brown, what he said initially about what Stephen A. just said.
And now I'm going to play an excerpt from Kwame's response to this video.
Here we go. Shout out to Jim's Eye View. Make sure, again, y'all subscribe to Jim's Eye View for the entire video. I'm not sure where the podcast interview is for Stephen A. Smith and what platform it was on. I believe it is somewhere on YouTube, so you guys can check it out. But this is what Kwame Brown had to say about Stephen A. Smith, quote unquote, apologizing, saying that if he, could have done it again, he would have did it another way. This is Kwame's response.
Stephen A. bald head weasel. See, you allege that you didn't know it was what you were doing was wrong, and if you had to do it over again, you would do it different. Well, Stephen A., that's a flat out lie. Because, we all have been at this for about 2 years, Stephen A. And there's a video of Jalen Rose trying to tell you, right, like the day that you were auditioning for the job. Because although you talk about how good your ratings is now and whatnot, you didn't have ratings before you started doing this.
So what Kwame Brown basically is saying is Stephen A. Smith is capped in this interview, because Stephen A. talking about if he was able to do things different that he would. And Kwame is calling Stephen A. out on it, because Kwame is like, no, that is a lie, because you actually had opportunities in the past to kind of backtrack the things that you were saying about me. Jalen Rose had tried to push, the narrative of you killing this noise and being a little bit more respectful and just trying to, make the situation more viable. And Stephen A. did not take the opportunity to do that. If you remember, Stephen A. had this new platform, I think called Stephen A's World or something like that, where he went on the show and did like a whole blooper compilation on Kwame Brown and, stuff like that. So Kwame is like, bro, that was your chance to really apologize, but you pretty much was extra, went on your little show, did a little compilation about me and was talking your stuff. So it was the same mode. That's basically what Kwame Brown, at least what I'm taking from Kwame Brown in his reply to Stephen A.'s quote unquote apology.
Comedic, disrespectful type of style. So you want to double down in this interview as if what I'm saying has no validity, right?
All right, so I'm going to stop it right there. And like I said, if you guys want to check out the rest of the interview, make sure y'all go check out Jim's Eye Vision on YouTube. But what do I think about this whole situation? Two things, bro, can be very true. Understand that. What I feel like, in my opinion, Kwame Brown is failing to realize, and again, Kwame was violated according to him. So I'm not really telling Kwame Brown how he should redirect his energy. Kwame's a grown man. He's going to do what he do. But I will say maybe we as a people can start implementing this in the future when we have similar problems, because maybe things will go smoother. We got to take into consideration Kwame Brown called out Stephen A. Hell yeah, Stephen A. definitely had an opportunity back then to apologize, do these things to clean this mess up. And he did not do that. So Kwame Brown is absolutely right and true about that. But what also can be true, and I want people to understand, recognize, and realize, not giving Stephen A. a pass, but who are we to judge Stephen A. Smith to say that from the time he did that, it's a Stephen A's World up until today when this interview was done, that he haven't had a change of heart, or in hindsight, he realized that this was just too much. We have to not so much give Stephen A. the benefit of the doubt, But there is the fact that there's a time frame from when Stephen A did that up until now where you got to give the guy some type of leeway to feel like, okay, maybe he has, felt like if he would have delivered his messages differently, we wouldn't have had this type of backlash, or Kwame wouldn't have felt this way. So, Kwame is right that Stephen A had an opportunity to clean it up and he didn't. But you can't put a cap on that neither. You got to give people a time. You got to give people time to grow. You don't have to give people time to grow, especially when you violate it. But I suggest that you give people time to grow if possible. You understand me? So, Stephen A saying that, I can't say that he was phony, but it was different. It was definitely different. I'm not saying that Kwame Brown should accept it, but I would like for Kwame, and I would like for people as a whole, even though it wasn't too long ago that Stephen A. Smith did that little compilation thing, mind you, that was basically a clapback or a response for Kwame Brown going hard on Stephen A. Smith. So that was really a response from Stephen A. Smith for what he was seeing on YouTube from Kwame Brown. So, like, this thing can really go both ways. But, like I said, when it come to Kwame Brown, if he felt like he was violated by Stephen A. Smith, things of that nature, you can't tell that man why he don't just chill and leave the topic alone. And you can't tell that man how upset or disrespectful to feel. You can't tell that man how to get his get back. If Kwame Brown feel like every platform he goes on moving forward, he want to talk stuff about Stephen A. Smith, then, so be it. I think that's going to have him looking crazy, public perception wise, but some people don't care what the public think. Some people just want to get their shit off, and, you got to respect that, bro. You got to respect that. Scrub Zero says Stephen A. Smith has been on his own podcast and others and didn't apologize before. He's probably being asked about Kwame Brown on other platforms. Why did he wait to respond for the White Boys podcast? I mean, interesting, bro. It could be a storyline behind that, Scrub, but at the end of the day, bro, when you talk about growth and development, when you talk about mending wounds, when you talk about unity and just trying to be strong as a people and trying to kill some of the BS, what does it matter what platform he did it on? Like, to me, I'm looking at it from like not cup half empty, cup half full. Like, better late than never. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I've never seen Stephen A. have these types of remarks to Kwame Brown since this whole thing happened. So I don't know if I can classify it as an apology, but it was something different. What we will have to see moving forward is just how, I don't think it's going to change nothing though, because Stephen A. got paid millions and millions of dollars to have this type of energy towards sports personalities and athletes and stuff like that. So Stephen A. ain't going to do nothing to stop paying his damn bills. We got to look at the network for that. But, I'm not mad at Kwame Brown for feeling like it's cat. And Kwame Brown is right. Stephen A. definitely had ample opportunity to clean this up. But he trying to clean it up now, it seems like. I'm not saying Kwame Brown has to or needs to accept what Stephen A. is recently saying. But I do think, when somebody violate, not that you need to give them the benefit of the doubt, but just like they can't gauge your get back, you can't really gauge the time frame of a person understanding when they were wrong. But if they were man enough to come back eventually and do it, consider embracing them. That's all I can say. You might not got to rock with them, but just consider embracing somebody that winds up manning up and leveling up. You know what I'm saying? It's up for debate if that's what Stephen A. was doing. But like I said, bro, I haven't heard Stephen A. really have this type of quote unquote apologetic energy towards Kwame or Jamarcus Russell or any other prominent black athletes that we've had over the years that Stephen A. has been disrespectful. So it's really iffy, man. Salute to Houston Hometown Bowlers. He said this is a different Stephen A. Smith. He has been trying to clean up his act. He talked differently and reports on players differently. He seems to be trying. See, so I'm not bugging out. Salute to Houston Hometown Bowlers. I'm not bugging out. I do feel I'm not giving Stephen A. no pass. I'm not saying he's a changed man. I'm not saying he's pro nothing. I'm not going there. But what I witnessed in that podcast interview, and not just this podcast interview, I'm going to keep it a buck with y'all. I'm not a fan of Stephen A. Smith no more. But if you listen to Stephen A. Smith when he is on these other platforms, the Breakfast Club, Hot 97, the Pivot, or all these other Up in Smoke, like all these other platforms, bro. Stephen A. Smith, when he talk, it seemed like this barbershop talk, like he's just like it's somebody that sit right next to you. Like his whole disposition on other platforms is so different. He got knowledge. It makes you wonder, bro, why the hell you don't be doing this on First Take? Why did you have to take that angle to be who you are? But again, if the network is if that's how he paying his bills, some people ain't gonna stand on shit like that. You know what I'm saying? And people feel like they gonna do whatever they gotta do to better their situation. But Stephen A is definitely a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, because on ESPN, he's definitely one type of personality. But if you see Stephen A on some other platforms, just check out 5-10 minutes of a Stephen A Smith interview on anybody else's platform. Stephen A be talking some real stuff. I'm gonna keep it a buck. I know some of y'all ain't gonna like that, but that shit is a fact. Young Sir in the building say Stephen A. Smith bullied Kwame Brown for years on TV. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not giving Stephen A pass at all. He did a lot of corny stuff. And, I think, like Kwame said he cost him money. Stephen A said he didn't. You don't know what type of opportunities Kwame Brown was declined on because of narratives and storylines and social media and stuff like that. And Stephen A was a huge part of that. And Stephen A said people was doing this before he started. I don't know no broadcasters and analysts that was talking about Kwame Brown in that manner before Stephen A. White analysts and broadcasters wasn't even animated like that with their delivery. You see how boring Skip Bayless used to be on First Pizza? And you know what I'm saying? And the sports reporters, those guys are boring. That's why Stuart Scott, that's why Stephen A. Smith, when he first came to ESPN, that's why they held so much weight and impact, because of that animated personality that those guys brought to the table. So Stephen A. is cat when he talk about people was doing it before him. But, if this was an honest apology, even though it's been years later, I'll embrace it, because he didn't have to do it. He could have stuck on his own 10 toes and continue to be an asshole. But it seemed like he trying to clean it up. So I appreciate it. I don't know if Kwame does. Apparently Kwame don't. And Kwame don't have to. But I just want Kwame to just look at it. Ain't just look at the time frame from when Stephen A responded to you till this response. You gonna say Stephen A haven't had a different change of heart? I mean, that's up for debate, guys. But that's my thoughts and opinions on this whole Stephen A Smith, Kwame Brown situation. Apology, non-apology. I don't know how you guys want to classify, but like I said this morning, I came across Jim's iVision YouTube channel, and she had this footage. So I definitely had to break it down with you guys and give you guys my thoughts and opinions on this whole Stephen A Smith and Kwame Brown situation. Don't forget, if you guys enjoy daily NBA content, follow me everywhere on social media, 24/7, 360. You already know how we rocking when it comes to talking this shit. We love basketball. Also, become a member today of the Best of 7 Sports Talk here on YouTube. Become a member, exclusive perks. We got exclusive content, prizes, giveaways. It is lit. So become a member now. We definitely appreciate all the support that you guys are showing. Make sure y'all smash the like button before y'all leave. And if y'all are new to this YouTube channel, by all means, man, make sure y'all smash that subscribe button. And I look forward to chopping it up with you guys on the daily, man. I do live streams throughout the day. So more than likely, I'll get a chance to tap in with you guys, and we'll talk our shit when it comes to the NBA. Salute to my guy, Young Slim in the building. Salute to Scrub Zero, Houston, hometown bowlers, man. I appreciate your guys' thoughts and opinions on today's topic, man. I'm Seven Mitchell. This is the Best of 7 Sports Talk, and I am about to get up out of here, y'all. Y'all stay safe, man.